Hello, friends. In the last podcast, we discussed about the Roman administration. Today, we are diving into the exciting world of medieval economics and scholastic thought, or as I would like to call it, how to sell a cow without selling your soul. Because back in the Middle Ages, in the Western world, making money was not just about supply and demand, it was about salvation and damnation. Yes, folks, if you set your prices too high, you might make a tidy profit, but you might also end up going in hell, and nobody wants that. So, let's talk about how medieval scholars, especially the likes of Thomas Aquinas, tried to make sense of trade, ethics, and the almighty coin. Welcome to Econ Echoes. This is your host, Sagar Raut. I always tell my students that if you're trying to study the economic history, try to place yourself in that period. So, picture this. You are in the 13th century Europe, where there's no eBay, no Amazon, no credit cards, no Black Friday sales. Although, let's be honest, medieval fairs came pretty close. The economy is a mix of bartering, local markets, feudal obligations, and a little bit of long distance trade. Merchants are making money, but the church is giving them serious side eye. Why? Because medieval thought wasn't just about what you sold, it was about whether God would approve of that deal. Profit was suspicious. Too much profit? Greedy. Too little? Foolish. It was like a moral balancing act, and Thomas Aquinas was the referee. So, let's talk a little bit about Thomas Aquinas. You can think of him as an economist you didn't know you needed. Thomas Aquinas was a guy that wasn't just any scholar. He was the medieval version of a financial influencer, minus the Instagram account. He believed that trade had to be moral, fair, and just. And that brings us to the big question: what's a fair price? So, let's talk about different scenarios. Scenario 1: you're a baker in 1250. You have some lovely loaves of bread. The harvest was bad this year, and the bread is scarce. Do you A. Charge 5 times the usual price because there is a supply demand mismatch? B. Keep your price the same because you don't want to commit a sin? Or C. Offer discounts to the clergy because, well, they run things around here. If you picked B, congratulations, you won eternal salvation. Aquinas argued for something called as the just price, meaning prices should be fair, reflecting labor, cost, and moral responsibility. It wasn't just about what the market could bear, but what was right in the eyes of God. Now, let's talk about a dirty word in medieval economics: usury. Charging interest on a loan? That was considered sinful. The logic? Money should not beget money. After all, money isn't a cow. You can't just expect it to produce more money, right? Well, try telling this to the modern banks. But back then, Christian merchants had to be clever. They used creative contracts to disguise interest as service fees, late penalties, or partnership profits. And guess who didn't have problems with this? Jewish bankers, because medieval Christian laws on usury didn't apply to them. They often became moneylenders, leading to both financial success and anti Semitic resentment. Alright, let's hit pause for a second and ask, how was this different from what came before? The Romans had a much more pragmatic approach to economics. They weren't worried about the morality of profit. They just wanted a well functioning economy to support their massive empire. Roman taxation was sophisticated, trade was encouraged, and lending money with interest totally fine. No one was worried about their external soul if they made a solid business deal. On the other hand, the Greek philosophers like Aristotle had a different concern. He wasn't a fan of money making for its own sake. He thought trade should support a virtuous life, not just endless accumulation of wealth. But he wasn't as strict as the medieval scholastics who tied everything to Christian ethics. In short, medieval economics was unique because it blended economic theory with religious morality. The Romans, all about expansion and wealth. The Greeks, all about virtue. The medieval thinkers like Thomas Aquinas, all about balancing the ledger with God watching over their shoulders. So, what's the legacy that we still see of medieval economics? We still debate what is a just price, especially with things like minimum wage and fair trade. We are still suspicious of firms making high profits. Ever heard people complain about billionaires hoarding wealth? And usury? Well, let's just say that medieval bankers would love modern credit cards. However, you would always find Islamic banking actually having a system similar to usury, where interest is forbidden. So next time you buy something, think of Thomas Aquinas looking over your shoulder, whispering, "Is that price just?" That's all for today. My economically enlightened students, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share because even in the 21st century, knowledge is the best currency. See you next time. This is your host, Sagar Raut.